Hello everyone, today's video is going to cover part 2 of this bathroom remodel of a historic home in the Sacramento area. Alright, let's get started. To see the full surface prep and waterproofing for this bath area, check out my other video. I am going to be covering the full installation of the wall and the floor tile and all the tricky things for anybody who is attempting to install Zellige or artisan handmade tiles. But before I get into all of the Zellige tile installation, first things first, let's do the floor. With any floor installation, I always check the walls and see how square everything is. This is a pattern tile, kind of a custom pattern, so the layout was really important. If you want really clean cuts, there really is no substitute for the web saw. Gives you really nice, clean cuts, even in small pieces. Time to mix some mortar. Can't stress enough how important it is to have some kind of line. That green line you see right there, that is my guide. And just like that, the floor is done and grouted. Alright, now for the main event, the Zellige wall tile installation. I am going to try to cover all of the important details for anybody who's trying to do this kind of installation. First thing is these miters of Zellige tile, Moroccan tiles, artisan tiles. Most of the time you don't use a trim like Grouting, instead you make these custom miters. I made a lot of miters for this project. It's really hard to tell what the exact height is going to be for the kinds of tiles because they vary so much. I always do a kind of a guideline up. If I need to adjust the niche or anything like that, it's nice to know that beforehand. Every foot or so, I have to readjust the height in order to keep the line roughly where I want it, because otherwise these tiles just drift everywhere. That's why you see so many wedges here and there, to try to maintain roughly the same height throughout the whole project. At the end of a project like this is only about 80 square feet. I do use hundreds of spacers, so it's a really time-consuming process. Here's what that whole wall looks like once it's cleaned up. If you are a contractor or DIYer, just make sure that you're planning your time accordingly and that you take into account that it will take time. If you rush this, it doesn't look good. I did not use spacers here. Instead, I used only the wedges. The tiles were varied so much that, and you can see that right now, that line right there is perfect, and that's without a spacer. So the tiles were slightly bigger in 1 or 2 boxes. I had to squish the tiles together just to make the lines fit. This is where all the fun really starts. These slivers are pretty tricky to make, and what I do is I put mortar and I squish the mitered edges together. Then I add mortar on top of the entire area, just like this. That sort of makes a finished squared off tile. That's how you get these really nice clean finishes, even if the thickness is only about 5/8 of an inch. Almost done. We're on to phase 3, the grouting part of this installation. What you really want to start doing right off the bat is clean the surface really well. If you have anything still stuck inside of the grout lines, you're going to be fighting that the entire day. So cleaning it and then cleaning it again and making sure that the surface is very spotless is really important. These ceramic tiles are a little bit sensitive, so carving them out with a knife can be dangerous. That's why you see me here using a plastic wedge instead. I do sometimes tease the bigger parts with the knife, but then I switch over back to the wedge. You do want to get everything out of the grout lines as much as possible. If you do it correctly, it should take you a few hours to get through the entire wall, so you can tease out every last little spot of any mortar or any other residue. I do not recommend using a premix grout. I'm using the laticrete permacolor, and it is going to be black, so that's going to be extra challenging. Mix your grout to a smooth, really smooth and almost runny consistency. This is going to give you the best open working time, and you're going to need that because you're going to have to polish the wall. When you apply the grout, it is not going to feel right because it's so bumpy that you're not going to be able to get almost any of the grout off. That's expected, so don't worry about it. You will remove it eventually, so it won't just stay there. Try to sponge off as much of the debris first. If you're doing your job right, this is what the sponge is going to look like after a couple of passes. It's going to be completely destroyed. I go through about 6 sponges. This is what the wall looks like after 30 minutes of drying. You're going to have chunks of the grout still stuck in corners and things like that. So you sort of have to give it another pass and then polish away all of the uneven areas. That's what it looks like after you give it the second pass. That little divot right there, that's what you want to get rid of. You want to really sponge it all off, and you have to do this before the grout dries. Typically I end up wiping the surface about 4 different times at least. By the last wipe, which is roughly about 4 hours after I initially started the grouting, the water is mostly clean, and that's how you know that there isn't any residue left. And there you have it, another successful Zellige installation. This is a beautiful olive green color for this historic East Sacramento home. Thank you for watching.